is joy, coming to you live in Riley's mind. Make some notes, hanger!
Let me at him!
We gotta get our mouth guard
On our team. Our little girl's growing up so fast. Ow. Sorry.
I'm anxiety. Where can I put my stuff?
A new emotion. I'm envy. Look at her hair. Oh yeah, not a
Call the boredom.
What you mean, big fella? That's a no, hold on. Oh, you got a real sweaty palm there, buddy. You want to sit with us? These girls are so cool.
I can't let her know we're excited.
I got this.
That's not gonna haunt us for the rest of our lives at all. It's like requires more sophisticated emotions than
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, wherever video brings entertainment to life. Inside Out 2 is a 2024 American animated coming-of-age comedy drama film produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures, serving as the highly anticipated sequel to Pixar's critically acclaimed Inside Out, 2015. The film was directed by Kelsey Mann in his feature directorial debut from a screenplay by Meg LaFleur and Dave Holstein, based on a story developed by Mann and LaFleur. Amy Poehler, Phyllis Smith, Louis Black, Diane Lane, and Kyle MacLachlan reprised their roles from the original film, while Maya Hawke, Kensington Ullman, Liza Lapira, Tony Hale, Ayo Edebiri, Lilimar, Grace Liu, Suminir Iden Green, Adetilda Diarasas Exarchopoulos, and Paul Walter Hauser joined the voice cast. Tallman replaces Caitlin Diaz as Riley Anderson, while Lapira and Hale take over the roles of Disgust and Fear from Minty Kaling and Bill Hader, respectively. Set approximately 2 years after the events of the first film, the story follows 13-year-old Riley as she enters adolescence and begins attending a competitive summer hockey camp, where she faces new social and emotional challenges. Inside her mind, the familiar emotions of joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust find their long-established balance disrupted by the sudden arrival of a new group of emotions led by anxiety, alongside envy, embarrassment, ennui, and nostalgia. As these new emotions attempt to reshape Riley's developing sense of self, joy and the original emotions embark on an emotional journey to help Riley embrace every part of her evolving identity. Development on Inside Out 2 began in early 2020 following the commercial and critical success of the original film, with Kelsey Mann drawing inspiration from his own childhood experiences and the emotional complexities of raising children entering adolescence. Pixar's creative team initially explored dozens of potential new emotions before narrowing the selection to those that best represented the psychological changes associated with teenage development, ultimately making anxiety the film's central emotional catalyst. To ensure scientific authenticity, the filmmakers collaborated extensively with renowned psychologists and emotional development experts, including Lisa DeMoore and Asher Keltner, while consulting groups of teenagers whose experiences influenced Riley's behavior, dialogue, and emotional arc. During development, the story underwent significant revisions, including replacing an early talent show storyline with Riley's participation in an elite hockey camp, allowing the narrative to more naturally explore identity, friendship, competition, and self-expectation. The production also marked several milestones for Pixar, including Andrea Datzman becoming the first woman to compose the musical score for a Pixar feature film. The animation team developed new technical innovations, such as detailed isometric mapping of headquarters, to maintain visual continuity despite the increasingly complex emotional world. While extensive redesigns reflected Riley's maturing mind, voice recasting for the character's fear and disgust resulted from compensation negotiations that ultimately led Tony Hale and Liza Lapera to replace Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling. Inside Out 2 premiered at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on June 10, 2024, before receiving a wide theatrical release in the United States on June 14, 2024. The film received widespread critical acclaim for its emotionally resonant storytelling, thoughtful exploration of adolescent mental health, imaginative world-building, stunning animation, humor, and outstanding voice performances, particularly Maya Hawke's portrayal of anxiety, which was widely praised as one of Pixar's strongest new characters. Audiences also responded enthusiastically, resulting in one of the most successful theatrical runs in animation history. The film grossed approximately $1.699 billion worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of 2024, the highest-grossing Pixar film ever released, the highest-grossing animated film of all time upon its initial release, and one of the highest-grossing films in cinematic history, ranking as the 8th highest-grossing film worldwide at the time. Although its record as the highest-grossing animated film was surpassed by Inside Out 2 in 2025, Inside Out 2 remains one of Pixar's greatest commercial and critical achievements. The film earned numerous accolades and nominations throughout the awards season, including nominations for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, BAFTA Awards, and Critics' Choice Awards, while also receiving a Golden Globe nomination for Cinematic and Box Office Achievement, further cementing its status as one of the defining animated films of the decade. Here's a more detailed, polished, and up-to-date version of the plot in a single Wikipedia-style narrative paragraph. 2 years after moving from Minnesota to San Francisco, 13-year-old Riley Anderson is preparing to begin high school while continuing to pursue her passion for ice hockey. Inside her mind, her personified emotions of joy, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger continue to guide her daily decisions from headquarters. Since Riley has entered adolescence, headquarters now includes a newly developed psychological structure known as her sense of self, a glowing collection of memories and beliefs that defines how Riley sees herself. Determined to keep Riley optimistic and confident, Joy carefully selects only Riley's happiest memories to strengthen this sense of self while using a spring-loaded mechanism to eject painful or embarrassing memories into the far reaches of Riley's mind, believing that shielding Riley from negativity will help her become the best version of herself. Although the emotions have settled into what appears to be a successful routine, everything changes on the eve of Riley's departure for a prestigious 3-day summer hockey camp, where she hopes to impress the coaches and earn a place on the Firehawks. the elite varsity team at her future high school. Adding to Riley's anxiety is the realization that her closest friends, Bree and Grace, will be attending a different high school, leaving her uncertain about the future of their friendship. During the night before camp, headquarters is suddenly interrupted by the activation of the long-dormant puberty alarm, signaling the beginning of Riley's emotional adolescence. A crew of frantic mine workers rapidly remodels headquarters, installing a much larger and more sophisticated emotional console while expanding Riley's mental world to accommodate increasingly complex emotions. The remodeling leaves headquarters in temporary chaos, and the original emotions soon discover that the upgraded console amplifies Riley's reactions, making her emotions far more intense and difficult to control. Shortly afterward, 4 entirely new emotions arrive via anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and annoyance, followed briefly by nostalgia, who is told she will not yet be needed. Anxiety quickly assumes a leadership role, arguing that Riley's future depends on careful planning, social acceptance, and constant preparation for every possible outcome. Joy welcomes the newcomers but believes Riley should simply enjoy the camp and remain true to herself. Their conflicting philosophies soon collide as Riley arrives at camp under the supervision of the demanding Coach Roberts. While Joy encourages Riley to relax and have fun with Bree and Grace, anxiety becomes increasingly convinced that Riley must impress the older Firehawks players, particularly the talented and charismatic team captain Valentina Val-Ortiz, if she hopes to secure a place on the team and successfully navigate high school without her lifelong friends. After Riley unintentionally causes trouble during one of the camp activities under Joy's guidance, anxiety concludes that the original emotions are preventing Riley from reaching her full potential. Believing that Riley's identity must be reshaped for the challenges ahead, anxiety forcibly removes Riley's existing sense of self and launches it into the back of her mind, where forgotten memories accumulate. She then imprisons joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust inside a secure vault deep within Riley's subconscious. With the original emotions out of the way, anxiety takes complete control of headquarters and begins constructing a new sense of self built around relentless self-improvement and fear of failure. Under anxiety's influence, Riley distances herself from Bree and Grace and instead focuses on gaining the approval of Val and the older players. Riley suppresses her true personality, imitates the behavior of her new teammates, and becomes increasingly obsessed with earning acceptance, even when doing so causes her to neglect the friendships and values that once defined her. Meanwhile, the imprisoned emotions escape the vault through a series of dangerous obstacles within Riley's mind. Recognizing that someone must return to headquarters, Joy sends sadness ahead using a two-way radio while she, anger, fear, and disgust embark on a journey to recover Riley's discarded sense of self. Sadness eventually reaches headquarters but is discovered by embarrassment, whose gentle and compassionate nature leads him to secretly protect her from anxiety rather than reveal her presence. As anxiety's influence over Riley intensifies, Riley secretly sneaks into Coach Roberts' office and reads her confidential evaluation notebook, discovering that although she has talent, the coach believes she is not yet emotionally ready to join the Firehawks. The discovery devastates Riley and reinforces anxiety's belief that perfection is the only path to success. Elsewhere, Joy and the other emotions finally locate Riley's original sense of self resting atop a towering mountain of discarded painful memories that Joy herself had banished over the years. Through the two-way radio, Joy tells Sadness that Riley needs every memory, both joyful and painful, to understand who she truly is. Anxiety overhears their conversation and destroys the recall tube connecting headquarters to the back of Riley's mind, trapping Joy and her companions. Faced with the consequences of her own actions, Joy experiences a profound emotional crisis, realizing that by hiding Riley's painful experiences she has unintentionally prevented Riley from developing emotional resilience and self-acceptance. Inspired by this realization, the emotions use dynamite to collapse the mountain supporting the discarded memories, unleashing an enormous flood of forgotten experiences that carries them back toward headquarters through the rivers of Riley's mind. Back at headquarters, anxiety's carefully constructed sense of self gradually transforms into one rooted in insecurity, self-doubt, and the constant fear of not being good enough. During Riley's final hockey tryout, she becomes consumed by pressure to prove herself, leading to increasingly reckless decisions on the ice. She accidentally crashes into Grace, receives a penalty from Coach Roberts, and ultimately spirals into overwhelming panic. Inside headquarters, Anxiety desperately attempts to regain control by frantically operating every part of the emotion console at once, triggering a violent emotional storm that overwhelms Riley's mind and causes her to suffer her first panic attack. Riley struggles to breathe, her thoughts race uncontrollably, and she becomes emotionally paralyzed on the penalty bench as the original emotions finally return to headquarters. Joy discovers Anxiety frozen at the console, trapped by the very fears she created. Rather than blaming her, Joy compassionately reassures Anxiety that Riley's future cannot be controlled through endless worry and that uncertainty is an unavoidable part of growing up. Anxiety tearfully admits that no single emotion has the right to decide who Riley should become and apologizes for believing she alone could protect Riley. Understanding this truth, Joy removes both the original and Anxiety-created sense of self, allowing Riley's identity to rebuild itself naturally from the complete collection of her joyful, painful, embarrassing, and bittersweet memories. The newly formed sense of self reflects a healthier, more mature understanding of herself, a one that embraces both strengths and flaws instead of denying either. United at last, joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui begin working together in harmony, calming Riley's panic attack and restoring emotional balance. Riley sincerely reconciles with Bree and Grace, accepts that friendships can evolve without ending, and finishes her hockey tryout with renewed confidence while playing authentically rather than desperately seeking approval. Sometime later, Riley successfully begins high school, develops a genuine friendship with Val and the other Firehawks players while remaining close to Bree and Grace, and adapts to the challenges of adolescence with greater emotional maturity. Inside headquarters, all 9 emotions peacefully share responsibility for guiding Riley through the next stage of her life as she eagerly checks her phone for the Firehawks' final team selections, confident in who she has become regardless of the outcome. The voice cast of Inside Out 2 features a large ensemble that brings Riley Anderson's expanding emotional world to life during her transition into adolescence. Amy Poehler returns as Joy, the bright yellow emotion who has long served as the optimistic leader of Riley's emotional headquarters and remains determined to keep Riley happy, often resisting emotional changes that might threaten the stability and positivity she has carefully maintained. Phyllis Smith reprises her role as Sadness, the gentle blue emotion who helps Riley process grief, disappointment, and other painful experiences, providing emotional depth and understanding during difficult moments. Lewis Black returns as Anger, the fiery red emotion responsible for ensuring fairness and justice in Riley's life while also fueling her competitive drive and intensity, particularly during hockey. Tony Hale joins the franchise as Fear, replacing Bill Hader from the first film. The cautious purple emotion constantly scans for potential dangers and works to protect Riley from physical and social threats. Liza Lapira replaces Minty Kaling as Disgust, the sharp-witted green emotion who manages Riley's feelings of revulsion, social judgment, and instinctive reactions to people and situations. The sequel introduces several important new emotions that emerge as Riley enters puberty and begins facing more complex social and personal challenges. Maya Hawke voices Anxiety, an energetic orange emotion who quickly assumes a major role in headquarters by constantly planning for worst-case scenarios and attempting to prepare Riley for every possible negative outcome. Ayoade Biri voices Envy, a bright cyan emotion who becomes fascinated by what other people possess, encouraging Riley to compare herself with others and aspire to their achievements, appearance, and social status. Ade Tilda Diaris Exarchopoulos voices Ennui, a sophisticated indigo emotion with a distinctive French accent who embodies Riley's boredom, emotional detachment, and teenage disinterest, often responding with sarcasm, minimal effort, and an air of cool indifference. Exarchopoulos also reprised the role in both the European French and Canadian French versions of the film. Paul Walter Hauser voices Embarrassment, a large pink emotion whose overwhelming shyness causes him to hide inside his oversized hoodie whenever Riley experiences humiliation or social discomfort. June's squib appears as nostalgia, a beige emotion portrayed as an elderly, sentimental figure who lovingly reminisces about Riley's past, even though, because Riley is only 13, those cherished memories are relatively recent. Kensington Tallman voices Riley Anderson, now a 13-year-old girl navigating puberty, identity, friendships, and the pressures of high school athletics, replacing Caitlin Diaz from the original film. Lillimer voices Valentina Val-Ortiz, a confident and popular high school hockey player whom Riley admires and hopes to impress. Grace Liu voices Grace Shea, one of Riley's close friends, while Sue Minurin Green voices Brianna Bree Young, another member of Riley's friend group who accompanies her through the emotional challenges of adolescence. Diane Lane and Kyle MacLachlan return as Riley's parents, Jill Anderson and Bill Anderson, whose own emotions briefly appear to provide humorous insight into their perspectives. Yvette Nicole Brown voices Coach Roberts, the demanding and respected head coach of the summer hockey camp that becomes central to Riley's emotional journey. The film also includes a number of memorable supporting characters from Riley's mind and subconscious. Ron Funches voices Bluefy, the cheerful mascot from Riley's beloved childhood television series Bluefy's House, while James Austin Johnson voices Pouchy, Bluefy's enthusiastic talking fanny pack sidekick. Young Ye voices Lance/Blade, the heroic fantasy video game character on whom Riley had a childhood crush. Steve Purcell voices Deep Dark Secret, a towering, shadowy figure representing a deeply hidden secret Riley has never revealed to anyone, specifically, accidentally burning a hole in a rug. Paula Pell voices Jill's anger, while director Pete Docter voices Bill's anger, offering brief glimpses into Riley's parents' emotional headquarters. Dave Goles and Frank has voiced subconscious guard Frank and subconscious guard Dave, respectively, who oversee the secure area of Riley's subconscious. John Ratzenberger returns as Fritz, the veteran mindworker mechanic responsible for maintaining and upgrading the headquarters console. Flea voices Mind Cop Jake, while Bobby Moynihan and Paula Poundstone voice Forgetter Bobby and Forgetter Paula, the workers responsible for managing and disposing of fading memories. In the United Kingdom release of the film, television personality Sam Thompson makes a special cameo appearance as security man Sam, a security guard who becomes unexpectedly caught up in a chaotic chase involving the emotions. Together, the cast creates a richly layered emotional ensemble that reflects the increasingly complicated inner life of a teenager experiencing the upheaval of growing up. Following the enormous critical acclaim and worldwide commercial success of Inside Out, 2015, industry observers and entertainment journalists widely viewed a sequel as inevitable, given the original film's universal appeal and the vast storytelling potential of Riley Anderson's emotional development. Even before a sequel was officially approved, original director Pete Docter had begun exploring ideas for continuing Riley's story while the first film was receiving awards recognition during the lead-up to the 88th Academy Awards in early 2016. Docter believed there was still much to explore within the emotional landscape of the human mind, particularly as Riley matured beyond childhood into adolescentia, a stage of life marked by increasingly complex emotions and psychological growth. Although these early ideas remained conceptual for several years, they laid the creative foundation for what would eventually become Inside Out 2. Formal development on the sequel began in January 2020 under director Kelsey Mann, who had previously worked at Pixar in various creative roles and had directed the studio's Academy Award-nominated short film Party Central, 2013. Mann found the initial inspiration for the sequel after revisiting photographs from one of his own childhood birthday parties, which prompted him to reflect on the awkwardness, uncertainty, and emotional complexity of growing up. Those memories led him to focus the sequel on Riley's transition into puberty, a period when childhood emotional stability gives way to new feelings, insecurities, and social pressures. Mann wanted the film to authentically capture the experience of becoming a teenager while remaining faithful to the emotional honesty that defined the original film. Rather than simply revisiting familiar concepts, the filmmakers aimed to expand the internal world of Riley's mind in a way that reflected real psychological development. Pixar officially announced Inside Out 2 during the D23 Expo in September 2022. During the presentation, Pixar Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter introduced the project alongside returning star Amy Poehler, who appeared on stage to discuss Joy's return and the film's focus on Riley entering her teenage years. The announcement confirmed Kelsey Mann as director, Mark Nielsen as producer, and Meg LaFave, who co-wrote the original film, as the screenwriter, ensuring strong creative continuity with its predecessor. The returning creative team emphasized that the sequel would preserve the emotional authenticity, humor, and imaginative world-building that made the first film a Pixar classic while exploring the far more complicated emotional experiences associated with adolescence. One of the production's greatest creative challenges involved determining how Riley's emotional headquarters should evolve as she matured. During development of the original film, Pete Docter had proposed that the human mind could contain anywhere from 5 to 27 emotions, although the first film ultimately focused on only 5 core emotions for narrative clarity. Mann revisited this broader concept while developing the sequel, seeking a more psychologically truthful representation of teenage emotional life. His earliest story treatments introduced as many as 9 entirely new emotions, intentionally overwhelming joy to illustrate how adolescence often feels emotionally chaotic and unpredictable. However, as development progressed and early screenings were conducted, the filmmakers concluded that too many new characters diluted the emotional focus and prevented audiences from forming meaningful connections with them. Mann ultimately streamlined the cast, selecting only the emotions that most effectively supported Riley's coming-of-age story and strengthened the film's central emotional conflict. Several emotions explored during early development were ultimately removed from the finished film but continued to influence its themes and characterization. Among the discarded concepts were schadenfreude, representing pleasure derived from another person's misfortune, jealousy and guilt. Although these emotions never appeared as individual characters, their psychological functions remained embedded within the final screenplay. Mann believed that envy effectively encompassed many aspects of jealousy, making a separate jealousy character unnecessary. Likewise, elements originally associated with guilt were incorporated into anxiety, whose relentless self-questioning, excessive responsibility, and fear of making mistakes reflected many of guilt's abandoned narrative traits. Mann humorously compared anxiety's emotional baggage to the enormous amounts of luggage seen at Disneyland hotels, using that image as a metaphor for the overwhelming mental burdens many teenagers carry. To further shape anxiety's frantic personality and relentless pacing, the creative team cited the 2019 thriller Uncut Gems as a major cinematic influence, particularly its sustained atmosphere of tension, escalating pressure, rapid editing, and overwhelming sensory intensity. Those stylistic influences helped transform anxiety into one of the sequel's most dynamic and memorable new emotions while reinforcing the film's broader exploration of adolescence, identity, and emotional change. The screenplay for Inside Out 2 was shaped through an extensive combination of psychological research, scientific consultation, personal experiences, and feedback from real teenagers to ensure the film portrayed adolescence with authenticity and emotional honesty. Throughout development, the filmmakers worked closely with acclaimed author and clinical psychologist Lisa D'Amour, whose expertise on adolescent mental health and puberty became one of the project's most important creative resources. D'Amour regularly advised the production team on the emotional, cognitive, and social changes teenagers experience during puberty, and her books served as key reference materials for accurately depicting Riley Anderson's transition from childhood into adolescence. Returning from the original film, Dr. Keltner, professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, once again served as the film's principal scientific consultant. Keltner guided the filmmakers on the psychology of human emotions, helping determine which new emotions would best represent the developmental challenges associated with adolescence while remaining grounded in contemporary psychological research. One emotion extensively explored during early story development was shame, which initially appeared as a separate character. However, after numerous discussions, Keltner concluded that shame functions more as a complex social emotion than a primary foundational emotion, leading the creative team to remove the character. The filmmakers also felt that shame's emotional weight could make the story unnecessarily heavy for a family-oriented animated feature. Instead, many of its thematic elements were redistributed among other emotions, particularly anxiety and embarrassment, allowing the film to explore similar psychological concepts in a more accessible and balanced manner. The filmmakers also updated Riley herself to reflect the physical and emotional realities of puberty. Her character model was redesigned with subtle but meaningful changes that signified natural adolescent growth, including increased height, more mature facial proportions, and bodied language that reflected her growing self-consciousness and evolving identity. These visual adjustments complemented the film's broader exploration of puberty by illustrating that Riley's transformation was occurring both externally and internally. Every design decision was intended to reinforce the authenticity of her coming-of-age journey while ensuring continuity with her appearance in the original film. To further strengthen the screenplay's realism, Pixar assembled a panel of 9 teenagers, collectively nicknamed Riley's Crew, who acted as consultants throughout production. The group reviewed storyboards, scripts, animatics, and early cuts of the film, providing candid feedback about teenage friendships, social pressures, school experiences, emotional reactions, and contemporary adolescent culture. Their observations helped the filmmakers avoid outdated portrayals of teenage life while grounding Riley's experiences in situations that felt familiar to modern audiences. The teenagers' contributions directly influenced several sequences throughout the film, including the everyday interactions between the emotions inside headquarters, Riley's adjustment from middle school to high school, and numerous small behavioral details that reflected how teenagers think and communicate. Their feedback also inspired the introduction of nostalgia, whose humorous tendency to reminisce about events that had happened only a few years earlier reflected how even young teenagers can already look back fondly on childhood. Although nostalgia plays a relatively small role in the finished film, her inclusion became one of the production's most memorable creative decisions. Producer Mark Nielsen and director Kelsey Mann also drew heavily upon their own experiences as parents while developing the story. Much of the screenplay was written during the global COVID-19 pandemic, when lockdowns allowed the filmmakers to spend significantly more time observing their children at home. Several of their daughters were approximately the same age as Riley in the sequel, giving the creative team an unusual opportunity to witness firsthand the emotional fluctuations, social anxieties, and behavioral changes associated with early adolescence. Those observations influenced numerous aspects of the screenplay, particularly Riley's interactions with friends, her growing independence, and the emotional conflict between childhood optimism and teenage uncertainty. Joy's characterization was especially shaped by these parental observations, as the filmmakers explored how a person's desire to remain happy can sometimes interfere with healthy emotional growth and self-acceptance. The film underwent numerous story revisions before arriving at its final narrative. Early versions of the screenplay centered around a school talent show, which was intended to provide the main source of Riley's emotional conflict. However, after approximately 3 rounds of audience test screenings, Mann, Nielsen, and screenwriter Meg LeFauve concluded that the premise lacked the personal specificity needed to distinguish the sequel from other coming-of-age stories. Seeking a more unique narrative, they shifted the focus to competitive hockey, an activity already established as an important part of Riley's identity in the original film. The decision was further influenced by conversations between Mann and Dom Shi, director of Turning Red, 2022. Who encouraged him to identify an aspect of Riley's personality that would make her coming-of-age journey feel distinct from other teenage stories. Hawke ultimately became the central framework through which Riley's friendships, ambitions, insecurities, and emotional development could naturally unfold. Several sequences also evolved substantially during editing. One notable example involved the scene in which joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust are imprisoned inside a secure vault deep within Riley's subconscious. Early cuts featured a considerably longer sequence filled with additional comedic encounters, visual gags, and interactions with forgotten mental constructs. As production continued, however, many of these jokes were removed to improve pacing, maintain narrative momentum, and keep the emotional focus on Riley's psychological transformation rather than extended comedic detours. The writing and production process also unfolded during one of the most challenging periods in Pixar's history. Following the disappointing theatrical performances of several recent releases, including Lightyear, 2022, and Elemental, 2023, many employees viewed Inside Out 2 as a critically important project whose success could help restore confidence in Pixar's theatrical future. Internally, some staff reportedly described the film's commercial prospects as a life-or-death moment for the studio. Development became even more complicated during the simultaneous 2023 Writers Guild of America, WGA, and SAG-AFTRA strikes, which disrupted production schedules across Hollywood. While Pixar postponed the release of Elio by a full year because of the industry-wide disruptions, studio leadership remained committed to preserving Inside Out 2's planned theatrical release date. Maintaining that schedule required an exceptionally demanding production effort, reportedly resulting in one of the most intensive periods of overtime in Pixar's history. According to multiple industry reports and anonymous studio sources, the accelerated schedule led to numerous last-minute revisions during the final stages of production. During this period, Pixar Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter became increasingly involved in refining story structure, character arcs, and editorial decisions, with some reports indicating that he effectively served as an uncredited co-director during the final months of production, helping guide the film through completion while ensuring it remained consistent with the emotional vision established by the original Inside Out. The casting process for Inside Out 2 combined the return of several beloved performers from the original film with a number of significant new additions that reflected Riley Anderson's emotional evolution as she entered adolescence. Amy Poehler was the first principal cast member confirmed to return, reaching an agreement to reprise her role as Joy in a deal reportedly worth $5 million, along with performance-based bonuses. Poehler's return ensured continuity for the franchise, as Joy remained the emotional centerpiece of the sequel and one of Pixar's most recognizable characters. Phyllis Smith and Lewis Black also returned to voice sadness and anger, respectively, reprising the performances that had become fan favorites in the original Inside Out. Their involvement allowed the sequel to preserve the chemistry and emotional balance established by the first film while exploring the changing dynamics within Riley's increasingly crowded emotional headquarters. Not all of the original voice cast returned, however. During negotiations, Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling, who had voiced fear and disgust in the original film, declined to reprise their roles following reported disagreements over compensation. According to industry reports, Hader, Kaling, and the other returning cast members excluding Poehler were each offered approximately $100,000, an amount reported to represent roughly 2% of Poehler's salary. Unable to reach new agreements, both actors departed the project, leading Pixar to recast their characters. When Disney released the film's first teaser trailer on November 9, 2023, it officially revealed that Tony Hale had been cast as the new voice of fear, while Liza Lapira assumed the role of disgust. The teaser also introduced audiences to anxiety, a major new orange emotion voiced by Hawke. Director Kelsey Mann later recalled that Hawke's audition occurred under unusual circumstances during a family vacation at Epcot in Walt Disney World. After producer Mark Nielsen informed him that Hawke was unexpectedly available to audition immediately, Mann conducted the session via Zoom from a small back room inside the park. Hawke's emotionally intense and deeply authentic performance reportedly moved Mann to tears, convincing him almost instantly that she was the ideal choice to portray anxiety, who would become the sequel's central new emotional character. Disney continued unveiling additional cast members throughout the film's marketing campaign. On January 16, 2024, it announced that Academy Award-nominated actress June Squibb had joined the ensemble in a then undisclosed role. Her character was later revealed to be Nostalgia, a sentimental elderly emotion who humorously longs for Riley's childhood memories despite the fact that Riley is only 13 years old. On March 7, 2024, Disney officially announced another wave of casting, confirming that Diane Lane and Kyle MacLachlan would return as Riley's parents, Jill and Bill Anderson, respectively. The announcement also introduced several major newcomers, including Ayo Edebiri as Anve, Adetilda Diaris as Exarchopoulos as Ennui, Paul Walter Hauser as Embarrassment, and Kensington Tallman as the new voice of Riley Anderson, replacing Caitlin Diaz, who had portrayed Riley in the original film. Tallman's performance reflected Riley's increased maturity as she navigated puberty, new friendships, and the social pressures of adolescence. The supporting cast also expanded significantly to populate Riley's changing world both inside and outside her mind. John Ratzenberger returned as Fritz, the veteran mine-worker mechanic responsible for maintaining headquarters control console, marking his first voice role in a Pixar feature since Onward, 2020. Lillimer joined the cast as Valentina Val-Ortiz, the talented and popular high school hockey player whom Riley admires during summer hockey camp. Yvette Nicole Brown portrayed Coach Roberts, the demanding but encouraging coach overseeing the camp, while Grace Liu and Sumin Green were cast as Riley's close friends Grace Shea and Brianna Bree Young, respectively. Together with returning performers and newly introduced emotions, the expanded ensemble allowed the sequel to depict Riley's increasingly complex emotional and social life while maintaining continuity with the original film. The animation of Inside Out 2 followed Pixar's highly collaborative and iterative production process, with story artist Rebecca McVeigh and lead editor Marissa Horowitz playing especially important roles in refining the film's emotional storytelling. Because animated films are continuously rewritten and reshaped throughout production rather than after principal photography, virtually every sequence underwent repeated revisions as the filmmakers refined character arcs, comedic timing, visual storytelling, and emotional pacing. Entire scenes were frequently rewritten, reboarded, reanimated, shortened, or removed altogether based on feedback from internal screenings and story evaluations. Unlike live-action filmmaking, where editing primarily occurs after filming has been completed, Pixar's production pipeline required constant collaboration among writers, storyboard artists, editors, animators, layout artists, and technical departments, allowing the film's narrative and visual language to evolve simultaneously throughout development. One of the production's greatest technical challenges involved translating hand-drawn storyboards into believable three-dimensional environments while preserving clear visual continuity. Rebecca McVeigh explained that early in her career she naturally approached storyboarding from a two-dimensional perspective, but Pixar's filmmaking process required artists to think spatially, considering how every scene would ultimately exist within a fully realized three-dimensional world. To accomplish this, McVeigh frequently created detailed isometric maps of locations throughout Riley's mind, enabling her to accurately determine camera placement, character movement, environmental geography, and which background elements would remain visible from different viewing angles. This planning proved especially important because the imaginative architecture of headquarters, the vault, the stream of consciousness, and the film's many abstract mental landscapes demanded precise spatial consistency despite their fantastical designs. The close integration of storyboarding, editing, layout, and animation allowed Pixar to continually refine both the emotional clarity and visual coherence of the film, ensuring that every environment supported the story's exploration of adolescence while maintaining the studio's renowned standards of technical and artistic craftsmanship. Andrea Datzman composed the musical score for Inside Out 2, succeeding Michael Giacchino, who had written the acclaimed score for the original 2015 film. Her involvement was officially announced on March 7, 2024, alongside the release of the film's second trailer, marking a significant milestone in Pixar's history as Datzman became the first woman ever to compose the score for a feature film produced by Pixar Animation Studios. Drawing inspiration from Giacchino's original themes while expanding the musical identity of the franchise, Datzman crafted an emotionally rich and sophisticated score that reflects Riley's transition into adolescence and the introduction of new emotions such as anxiety, envy, embarrassment, ennui, and nostalgia. The soundtrack blends sweeping orchestral arrangements with contemporary textures and subtle electronic elements, mirroring the emotional complexity and heightened inner turmoil experienced during Riley's teenage years. Throughout the film, Datsman's music balances moments of humor, excitement, vulnerability, and heartfelt introspection, reinforcing the evolving relationships among the emotions while preserving the warmth and emotional resonance that defined the original film. The official soundtrack album, featuring Datsman's complete original score, was released by Walt Disney Records on June 14, 2024, the same day as the film's theatrical premiere, and received widespread praise from critics and audiences for honoring the musical legacy of Inside Out while establishing a distinctive new sound for its sequel. Inside Out 2 had its world premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on June 10, 2024, where the film was introduced to members of the cast, filmmakers, critics, and invited guests ahead of its worldwide theatrical rollout. The film was subsequently released in theaters across the United States on June 14, 2024, by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. On the same day, it was also showcased at the 2024 Annecy International Animation Film Festival in France, one of the world's most prestigious animation festivals, further highlighting Pixar's latest production before an international audience of animation professionals and enthusiasts. To provide audiences with an enhanced cinematic experience, Inside Out 2 was exhibited in a wide range of premium theatrical formats, including REL 3D, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, ScreenX, D-Box, and other premium large format, PLF, auditoriums in select markets, offering immersive visuals and state-of-the-art sound presentation. The film received one of Pixar's widest global theatrical releases, opening simultaneously in numerous international territories and becoming a major summer event for families and moviegoers worldwide. Disney and Pixar launched an extensive global marketing campaign for Inside Out 2 that began on November 9, 2023. With the release of the film's first teaser trailer and official teaser poster. The promotional materials introduced audiences to Riley's teenage years while revealing several new emotions: anxiety, envy, ennui, and embarrassment, with anxiety taking center stage as the film's primary new character. Entertainment outlets such as Gizmodo and Verse highlighted the arrival of the new emotions, particularly embarrassment, ennui, and envy, generating widespread discussion among fans of the original film. The teaser trailer became an immediate online sensation, amassing approximately 157 million views across digital platforms within its first 24 hours, making it the most viewed animated film trailer at the time before its record was surpassed by the teaser trailer for Moana 2 in May 2024. Disney further expanded the film's visibility by airing an exclusive clip during Super Bowl VI on February 11, 2024, introducing the sequel to one of the largest television audiences of the year. On March 7, 2024, the studio released the official full-length trailer alongside a new theatrical poster, offering a deeper look at Riley's emotional struggles during adolescence and the evolving dynamics between the original emotions and the newcomers. The trailer also marked the first Pixar film to feature the standard version of the redesigned Walt Disney Pictures logo introduced following the studio's 100th anniversary celebration. As anticipation continued to build, Walt Disney Studios presented the first 35 minutes of the film during its CinemaCon presentation on April 11, 2024, earning enthusiastic reactions from theater owners and members of the press. To further promote the film, Disney partnered with Airbnb to create a one-of-a-kind immersive experience by transforming a home in Henderson, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas, into a life-sized recreation of Riley's headquarters, complete with rooms inspired by the emotions and interactive activities. The themed rental became available for booking beginning on June 12, 2024, as part of Airbnb's Icons experiences. Disney also supported the film with a massive worldwide advertising campaign that included television commercials, digital and social media promotions, outdoor billboards, retail merchandise, publishing tie-ins, toys, apparel, collectibles, and collaborations with numerous consumer brands. making Inside Out 2 one of Pixar's largest and most comprehensive marketing campaigns to date. Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment released Inside Out 2 for premium digital purchase and rental on major digital platforms on August 20, 2024, before issuing the film on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD on September 10, 2024. The physical home media editions included a variety of bonus features, such as behind-the-scenes featurettes exploring the film's development, the creation of Riley's new emotions, and the filmmaking process at Pixar Animation Studios, along with several deleted scenes introduced by director Kelsey Mann, offering insight into story concepts and sequences that were ultimately omitted from the final cut. Additional supplemental content highlighted the film's animation, voice performances, production design, and emotional themes, providing fans with an in-depth look at the making of Pixar's highest-grossing film. Inside Out 2 made its streaming debut on Disney Plus on September 25, 2024, where it immediately became a major success for the platform. During its first 5 days of availability, the film generated approximately 30.5 million views worldwide, making it Disney Plus's biggest film premiere of 2024 and the service's most successful film launch since Walt Disney Animation Studios Encanto, 2021. It also became the largest film premiere in Disney Plus history across the Europe, Middle East, and Africa, EMEA, region as well as Latin America, LATAM, demonstrating the film's broad international appeal. In the United States, Nielsen Media Research reported that Inside Out 2 accumulated 1.818 billion minutes of viewing during the week of September 23, 29, 2024, making it the most streamed film across major streaming platforms for the week. The film retained the top position the following week, from September 30 to October 6, with 908 million minutes viewed, reflecting strong audience engagement even after its record-breaking debut. Although its weekly viewership naturally declined in subsequent weeks, the film continued to rank among the most streamed movies in the United States, recording 513 million viewing minutes from October 7, 13 to finish as the third most streamed film of the week, followed by 386 million minutes from October 14, 20 to rank fourth, and 309 million minutes from October 21, 27, placing fifth. The sustained streaming performance underscored Inside Out 2's enduring popularity following its historic theatrical run and further cemented its status as one of Disney Plus's most successful original streaming premieres for a theatrical release. Inside Out 2 was a historic commercial success, grossing $653 million in the United States and Canada and $1.046 billion in international markets, for a worldwide total of $1.699 billion against a production budget of approximately $200 million. The film became the highest-grossing release of 2024, Pixar Animation Studios' highest-grossing film, and one of the highest-grossing films in cinema history. According to Deadline Hollywood, after accounting for production costs, worldwide marketing expenses, talent participations, distribution fees, home entertainment sales, television licensing, and streaming revenue, the film generated an estimated $650 million in net profit, making it the most profitable film released in 2024. The film's extraordinary financial performance represented a dramatic turnaround for Pixar following the mixed theatrical results of Lightyear, 2022, and the direct-to-streaming releases of Soul, 2020, Luca, 2021, and Turning Red, 2022, reaffirming the studio's ability to attract audiences to theaters on a global scale. Before its release, industry analysts projected Inside Out 2 to earn between $80 million and $90 million during its opening weekend in North America. Conservative forecasts reflected concerns about changing movie-going habits following the COVID-19 pandemic, Pixar's recent theatrical struggles, and the generally soft box office performance during the first half of 2024. However, the film significantly exceeded expectations after earning $63.6 million on its opening day, including approximately $13 million from Thursday night preview screenings. As a result, opening weekend projections were quickly revised upward to between $140 million and $150 million. Ultimately, the film debuted with $154.2 million from 4,440 theaters in the United States and Canada, while simultaneously earning an estimated $140 million across 38 international markets, resulting in a spectacular $294.2 million worldwide opening weekend. At the time, this marked the largest global opening weekend in Pixar's history, a record that stood until it was surpassed by Toy Story 5 in 2026. The domestic opening established numerous box office milestones. It became the biggest opening weekend of 2024, surpassing Dune, Part 2, $82.5 million, and Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, $80 million, while becoming the first film of the year to debut above the $100 million mark. Among animated films, it recorded the third largest domestic opening weekend of all time, behind only The Lion King, 2019, and Pixar's Incredibles 2, 2018, and ranked as the fourth largest opening ever for a PG-rated film. Approximately 12 million people attended the film during its opening weekend, aided by strong family attendance, repeat viewings, and exceptionally broad demographic appeal. Premium formats including IMAX, Dolby Cinema, and other premium large format (PLF) screens generated approximately 43% of the opening weekend revenue, while 3D presentations contributed about 14%. The film also benefited from substantial walk-up ticket sales, with Hispanic and Latino audiences accounting for approximately 36% of opening weekend admissions. Following its record-breaking debut, Inside Out 2 displayed remarkable staying power throughout its theatrical run. It earned $255.2 million during its first 7 days of release while setting several weekday records, including Pixar's second-highest first Monday, the highest-grossing first Tuesday ever for an animated film, a record-breaking June 18th Wednesday, and Pixar's biggest first Thursday. During its second weekend, the film grossed $101.2 million, declining only 34.4% from its opening weekend, a remarkably small drop for a blockbuster release. This became the highest second weekend ever recorded for an animated film, surpassing the Super Mario Bros. Movie, 2023, and ranked among the strongest second weekends in overall box office history. The film remained at number 1 during its third weekend with $57.5 million, defeating newcomer A Quiet Place. Day 1, it surpassed $500 million at the domestic box office on July 4, 2024, before earning $30.3 million in its fourth weekend, when it finished second behind Despicable Me 4 while continuing to demonstrate exceptional audience demand. Internationally, Inside Out 2 achieved equally impressive results. After only 16 days in theaters, it surpassed the lifetime worldwide gross of the original Inside Out, $858.8 million. On June 30, 2024, just 19 days after its release, the film crossed the $1 billion worldwide milestone, becoming the first Disney animated film to achieve the feat since Frozen 2, 2019, and equaling The Lion King, 2019, as the fastest animated film to reach that milestone. On July 10, 2024, it surpassed Incredibles 2, $1.242 billion, to become Pixar's highest-grossing film of all time. The sequel also established numerous international records, becoming the highest-grossing film ever released in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Uruguay, reflecting its exceptional popularity throughout Latin America. The film continued breaking records throughout the summer. On July 28, 2024, it surpassed Incredibles 2 to become the highest-grossing animated film ever in the United States and Canada. On August 25, 2024, it became only the second animated film in history to surpass $1 billion in overseas markets alone. 1 week later, On September 1, 2024, Inside Out 2 overtook Disney's 2019 remake of The Lion King to become the highest-grossing animated film of all time as well as the highest-grossing film ever released under the Walt Disney Pictures label, further cementing its place among the most successful theatrical releases in film history. The film retained the title of the highest-grossing animated film of all time until February 2025. When the Chinese animated blockbuster Z 2 surpassed its worldwide earnings. Nevertheless, Inside Out 2 remained the highest-grossing American-produced animated film and Disney's highest-grossing animated feature until January 2026, when Zootopia 2 exceeded its worldwide box office total. Despite eventually losing those records, Inside Out 2 remains one of the most commercially successful animated films ever produced and is widely regarded as the film that restored Pixar's dominance at the global box office following several years of mixed theatrical performance. Inside Out 2 received widespread critical acclaim from reviewers, who praised its emotional storytelling, thoughtful exploration of adolescent mental health, vibrant animation, and the introduction of Riley's new emotions. Many critics considered the sequel a worthy successor to the original Inside Out, 2015, applauding its ability to tackle the complexities of teenage anxiety with intelligence, humor, and emotional sincerity. Particular praise was directed toward the film's richly detailed color palette, expressive animation, voice performances, and Andrea Datzman's musical score. While the new emotions, especially anxiety, were widely regarded as compelling additions that expanded the emotional landscape established in the first film. Although the film earned overwhelmingly positive reviews, some critics felt that the external storyline involving Riley's efforts to earn a place on her new hockey team followed a relatively familiar coming-of-age formula and lacked the originality of the emotional journey unfolding inside her mind. Even so, most reviewers agreed that the film's emotional depth and imaginative storytelling outweighed these narrative shortcomings. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, Inside Out 2 holds an approval rating of 91% based on 328 critical reviews, with an average rating of 7.6 out of 10. The site's critical consensus states, spicing things up with the wrinkle of teen angst, Inside Out 2 clears the head and warms the heart by living up to its predecessor's emotional intelligence. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score to reviews, the film received 73 out of 100 based on 59 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Audience reception proved even stronger. Moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore awarded the film an A grade on an A+ to F scale, matching the score earned by the original film, while audiences polled by PostTrak gave it an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars. With 71% of respondents saying they would definitely recommend it to others. Among the most enthusiastic reviews, Moira MacDonald of the Seattle Times awarded the film 3.5 out of 4 stars, praising its heartfelt storytelling, inventive visual style, and outstanding voice performances, describing it as a happy head trip for any age. Robbie Cullen of the Daily Telegraph gave the film 4 out of 5 stars, applauding its imaginative animation, emotional metaphors, and sharp humor, while noting that Pete Docter's original concept continued to provide fertile ground for meaningful expansion. Writing for Variety, Owen Gleiberman singled out Maya Hawke's performance as Anxiety, describing the character as both relatable and emotionally authentic, and called the film the most poignantly perceptive tale of the conundrums of early adolescence since 8th grade. In the New York Times, Manohla Dargis praised Pixar's continued ability to transform abstract psychological ideals into visually imaginative cinematic experiences, highlighting the studio's craftsmanship and emotional sophistication. Additional positive reviews came from publications including The Observer and Empire, both of which commended the film's emotional intelligence, humor, and visual creativity. Not all critics were entirely convinced by the sequel. Reviews from the BBC and the Los Angeles Times were more reserved, acknowledging the film's technical achievements while questioning whether it reached the emotional heights of its predecessor. Siddhant Lakha of IGN described the sequel as surprising and disappointing in equal measure, arguing that while its emotional themes remained engaging, Parts of the story felt overly conventional. David Ehrlich of IndieWire was among the film's harshest critics, awarding it a caw and contending that the sequel adhered too closely to Pixar's established storytelling formula, resulting in a conflict between its heartfelt intentions and what he viewed as an unnecessary continuation of an already complete story. Many reviewers inevitably compared Inside Out 2 with the Academy Award-winning original film. Cindy White of the AV Club felt the sequel lacked some of the freshness and emotional impact that made the first film so groundbreaking, while opinions regarding the newly introduced emotions varied considerably. Anxiety, voiced by Maya Hawke, emerged as the breakout character and received the overwhelming majority of critical praise, with reviewers such as Alison Wilmore of The Vulture and Jordan Hoffman of Entertainment Weekly applauding the character's nuanced portrayal of adolescent insecurity and overthinking. Meanwhile, Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian and Dodie Henderson of the Boston Globe particularly praised Ennui, voiced by Atilda Diaris's Exarchopoulos, highlighting the character's understated humor and uniquely apathetic personality. In his review for NPR, Justin Chang admired the film's thoughtful treatment of nostalgia and emotional memory but criticized one retro-inspired animated sequence, arguing that it briefly disrupted the film's otherwise cohesive visual style. Writing for RogerRabbit.com, Robert Daniels praised the film's depiction of anxiety as a force that gradually overwhelms Riley's personality, effectively illustrating the emotional pressures experienced during adolescence. He commended director Kelsey Mann for balancing visually inventive sequences with heartfelt emotional storytelling while sensitively addressing issues such as self-doubt, social acceptance, and the pressures faced by teenage girls. Daniels noted, however, that although the new emotions served their narrative purpose effectively, they were generally less memorable than joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust from the original film. By contrast, Damon Wise of Deadline Hollywood offered a more negative assessment, arguing that while the film contained several amusing moments including the introduction of the humorous sarcasm created by Noia, the emotional stakes ultimately felt too modest to justify another sequel, concluding that audiences were unlikely to leave theaters eager for an Inside Out 3. Despite these differing perspectives, critical consensus remained overwhelmingly positive, with most reviewers agreeing that Inside Out 2 successfully expanded upon the emotional themes of its predecessor while delivering a heartfelt, visually inventive, and emotionally resonant coming-of-age story. Combined with its exceptional audience reception and unprecedented worldwide box office success, the film is widely recognized as one of the strongest animated features of 2024 and a triumphant return to form for Pixar Animation Studios. Reviews. In 2015, Pixar Animation Studios released their 15th animated feature film titled Inside Out, showcasing a wave of emotions within this now beloved cartoon motion picture. Directed by Pete Docter, the film, which starred the voice talents for Amy Poehler, Phyllis Smith, Bill Hader, Louis Black, and Mindy Kaling, follows the inner workings of the mind of Riley, a young girl who adapts to her recent family's relocation as 5 personified emotions manage her thoughts and actions during this transition period. Debuting in theaters on June 19, 2015, Inside Out went on to reach critical acclaim during its theatrical run, with many praising the film for its craftsmanship, screenplay, plot, subject matter, and all the vocal performances. In addition, the movie went on to gross over $858 million at the box office worldwide and finished as the 7th highest grossing film of 2015. In conjunction with that, Inside Out went on to receive numerous accolades during the various award season, including winning Best Animated Feature for both the 88th Academy Award and the 2015's Golden Globes. Furthermore, many news journalists and Film Institute organization praised Inside Out, citing it to be one of the best animated films ever made. Now, almost 9 years since its original release, Pixar Animated Studios, in association with Walt Disney Studios, and director Kelsey Mann present the long-awaited follow-up sequel to the critical 2015 film with the release of Inside Out 2. Does the sequel find merit and heart within its colorful cartoon narrative, or is it a subpar and emotionless film that can't replicate the same type of charm and magic that the original movie was able to capture? Riley, Kensington Allman, is growing up and is now a teenager, turning the age of 13 and putting pressure on her emotions to deal with her new puberty setting in. At the ready are Riley's core emotions, including joy, Amy Poehler, sadness, Phyllis Smith, anger, Lewis Black, fear, Tony Hale, and disgust, Liza Lapria, with the gang working to protect the human's belief system, which makes up who she is. Disrupting Riley's HQ is the arrival of new emotions that coincide with her new teenage angst, which includes anxiety, Maya Hawke, Anve, Aowadbiri, Inui, Adele Exarchopoulos, and embarrassment, Paul Walter Hauser. Moving into Riley's control room to express her new feelings, the hockey-loving teenager is now off to comp with her friends, exposed to older teen girls, including Val, Lilimar Hernandez, and getting to prove herself to Coach Roberts, Yvette Nicole Brown, for the upcoming school year. Probed to looking to make a good and strong impression for the nervous girl, anxiety seeks to take control of Riley's thoughts, setting out to alter the core belief system, exiling joy and the other original emotions when they get in the way. Setting out on a journey, Joy and her gang are tossed into the far reaches of Riley's subconscious, looking to make their way back to HQ and put things right, while anxiety and the new emotions struggle to deal with teenage situations and peer pressure. As many of my readers know about me, I do love a good animated movie. Maybe it's because of the child and me type of feeling, but I always enjoy a good and wholesome cartoon motion picture. There have been too many to count of which one is my personal favorite animated feature films, so I won't bore out with the long laundry list of them. When it comes to Pixar releases, I do enjoy them. Like many out there, I believe to be some of the best animated movies out there, and they do have a track record to prove it. Of course, not every release of theirs is a big hit, but they have certainly epitomized animated tales of love, laughter, and tears within their narratives of colorful characters and emotional beats of storytelling. 2015's Inside Out is one of the prime examples of what Pixar can do with their animated films. The story was captivating from beginning to end and was indeed well animated, even to this day, showcasing a wide range of imagination and thought that was placed in making this feature come alive with such humor and heart. Plus, the voice talents involved were solid across the board, with each one embracing a uniqueness that played the feature's strength of lively voice performances for the characters that populated the endeavor. To the film's credit, Inside Out has some of the best heartwarming and gut-wrenching scenes of emotions within its narrative being told. While there is plenty to laugh about, be amused over, and fall in love with about this particular animated film, I personally believe, besides one or two other moments from Pixar's features, that this movie has some of the most emotional moments in the studio's company, which includes Bing Bong's farewell. Overall, I felt that Inside Out was another one of those defining releases that Pixar Studios is known for. It showcased everything that the animation studio is known for, including their own signature identity of characters and storytelling, and showed to children how each of their emotions is important and how sometimes a broken bar. It's okay to be sad and can actually bring around a sense of happiness, joy by embracing it. This brings me back to talking about Inside Out 2, a 2024 animated feature film and the follow-up sequel to the 2015 Inside Out film. Given the amount of success and popularity that the first movie was able to garnish over the years, it was almost a guarantee surefire idea that the sequel to Inside Out was eventually going to be greenlit in the near future, especially with the potential it had for the studio. Sure enough, sometime later, Pixar officially announced Inside Out 2 would be coming out sometime in 2024 and that many of the voicing talents from the first film would be returning, as well as featuring a teenage Riley and with her emotions encounter new ones that goes along with hitting puberty. After that, I really didn't hear much about the movie until the film's marketing campaign began to appear online and in theaters. From the previews alone, the movie did look like a genuine sequel, which featured many of the emotion characters from the first one as well as new additional to teenage Riley. Presumably, it was going to be another emotional roller coaster of an animated endeavor, much like the first one, and I, for one, was excited to see it. All in all, I was definitely looking forward to seeing Inside Out 2 when it was set to be released on June 14, 2024. Like so many high-profile movies of 2024, I did get to see the movie, in theaters, during its opening weekend, but this film, sadly, sort of fell through the cracks of getting my review done and completed for the remainder of the year. Now, trying to play catch-up with the 2024 movie review leftovers, I am finally ready to share my thoughts on this Pixar animated feature sequel. And what did I think of it? Well, I really liked it. Despite going through the motions of some similarities to the original film, Inside Out 2 is still quite the compelling and entertaining sequel that brings a lot of enjoyment. What made the 2015 likable as well as heartwarming with its emotional awareness and grouping up. It doesn't overtake nor surpass the first movie, but it's sure a terrific, animated follow-up adventure. Inside Out 2 was directed by Kelsey Mann, who previously includes working on projects like Duck Dodgers, Lightyear, and Foster Home for Imaginary Friends as a writer, storyboard artist. While she has directed projects before, including Mega's XLR, Green Screen Show, and Party Central, Mann hasn't directed a full-length feature film endeavor, making her debut with this particular film. Given her background and inherent hype that this sequel, to a popular and beloved animated movie, Mann certainly makes Inside Out 2 her most ambitious project to date. Moreover, Mann, to her credit, actually does quite an exceptional job in helming a project like this, which is something of a rare occurrence with directors who are handed such large and anticipated project and mostly crumble underneath such lofty and weighty expectations. Mann approaches the film with a sense of respect and understand what made the first film so likable, lovable, and highly enjoyable, never losing sight of what she wants to achieve within the feature's presentation, characters, and story. Like in the previous installment, Mann carefully balances a lot of the heavier material for the feature in a correct and focused manner, while also touching upon the more lighthearted moments the right way. This results in the merging of Pixar's classic humor and heart mantra and is executed in a timely manner throughout the feature's presentation and narration. Aiding in this endeavor is the film's script, which was penned by Mann as well as Meg LeFauve and Dave Holstein, which does a great job in navigating and charting a course for the film's story to take shape and follow a familiar trajectory. Following Riley into her early teenager years was always a good pivot for a sequel narrative to follow, especially in the unexplored range of emotions that occur when puberty happens and that her original core emotions having difficult dealing with their new emotions companions, who try to dominate control of Riley. It's a clever usage of storytelling that, as mentioned, is still appropriate and meaningful, yet also has lot to say within the studio's elevated signature style of storytelling, which I love. The comedy aspect of Inside Out 2 is spot on, with the writing team delivering such a sharp and brilliant usage of play on words as well as many back and forth banter moments that are hilarious to watch. I found myself laughing a lot throughout the movie and found the humorous bits, both sight gags and verbal dialogue, with many, if not most, hitting their intended target correctly. In addition, a lot of the heavier / dramatic dialogue-driven moments are presented quite well in their written material, but also in how they are presented and vocalized in their delivery. Such a combination works incredibly well together that makes for some wholesome scenes come alive with great effectiveness. Plus, with the film clocking in at around 96 minutes, 1 hour and 36 minutes, Inside Out 2 moves at a steady and good pace to make everything flow correctly in a manageable speed. Sure, some things could have been extended or expanded upon, more on that below, but Mann knows what to say about this movie and stages everything in an easy manner that all comes together in a somewhat breezy length without overstay its welcome. Collectively, Mann manages to take a familiar tale, pros and cons together, and creates another great addition to Pixar's library of comedy, cleverness, storytelling, amusement, and warming sentiments within a vivid animated narration. What made the first Inside Out truly fantastic was in the ways the feature was able to explore the core emotions of a young tween girl and how displaying and dealing with said core emotions produced a vital and healthy lifestyle, with one working together to make a perfect balance. Basically, the movie visually showed, to its younger viewers, it was okay to express their emotions and how the story gave each one physical personification of said emotions. Inside Out 2 carries that same type of bravado and pedigree into this sequel, with a story that reinforces such basic and fundamental ideas of emotions and bouts of various moods that make up a person's self-being. Like before, there is a roller coaster of emotions to be had within the narrative and subtext of the feature's story, which does retread some familiarities within its plot and beats. More on that below. But, for the positives, Inside Out 2 does showcases and demonstrates such a great attention towards growing up and learning how to embrace such newer emotions as well as using older ones. Such examples can be found within the characters of Joy and Riley, who both personify such idealisms, with the former struggling to let go of Riley's main core emotion control and becoming less relevant in the process, while the latter showcases the youthful change when growing into the adolescent years, including making new friends and the difficulty of keeping the older ones. At the film's natural core, this is a paramount importance of human behavior, one that most of us out there have experienced in our lives, with Mann treating such thematic messaging with a delicate touch, much like what Dr. did with the first Inside Out, and delves into such deep material with kids' gloves, making the subject matter easy to understand and easy to digest for everyone to learn and embrace. Overall, I feel that Mann did actually quite a fantastic job with Inside Out 2 that acts as a proper extension to the original film and gives the movie a familiar identity, good or bad, but plots a new and engrossing tale of a young teen's growth, friendship, and dealing unexpected emotions that's wrapped and presented in a lovable animated tale. Presentation-wise, Inside Out 2 looks absolutely gorgeous, with the 2024 film being the best-looking Pixar release to date. The richness and vibrancy that was well highlighted in the original film makes a return and is greatly enhanced by the updated computer-generated animation of today and displays some of the most detailed and intricately drawings of this cartoon movie's caliber and aesthetics. Much like before, while the real world of where the character of Riley interacts then with all of her friends and family, the more intriguing visual nuances coming from the colorful and imaginative setting that takes place within Riley's mind as the film's artisans create such a wonderful and fun palette for Joy and her friends, as well as USA Broken Bar. The viewers, to go on through. Thus, all the film's animators should be thanked and commended for their efforts, while also thanking Jason Deemer, production design, and the entire art direction team. In addition, the cinematography work by Adam Habib and Jonathan Putko is quite good throughout the entire film, with the film featuring some dynamic and dramatic shots and imagery to help build upon the movie's more cinematic moments in such a detailed, creative way. Lastly, the film's score, which was composed by Andrea Detzman, does quite a good job in expressing, and evoking, the same type of feeling that composer Michael Giacchino definitely complements and highlights all the various emotional feelings that accompany the film scenes that are displayed on screen. Unfortunately, there are a few criticisms that I had with Inside Out 2 that, while not derailing the emotional tale of teenage Riley and Joy's and her gang's quest to compete with new emotion entities, still draws criticism when comparing this project to the 2015 original. Perhaps my major criticism towards this movie is that it feels very much so like a retread of the first Inside Out and similar everything was. A similar situation occurs to Riley's emotion that throws a curveball on their initial plans, sending the narrative on a journey through the teenage girl's subconscious mind, having some big moment revelations, and understanding emotional feelings a broken bar for the better. It's all the familiar tones and overlays of what made the first Inside Out movie so great and fantastic, which does make such situations and circumstances feel a bit too redundant at times in this follow-up sequel. Yes, I indeed knew that was going to be the case when going into this movie. but I would have liked to see something play a bit differently at times. It is hard to separate the formula of what made Inside Out great and trying to replicate it in Inside Out 2 is quite the tall order to fill. As such, Inside Out 2, despite its attempts to stand taller than its predecessor, can overtake the narrative story of what made the first one so compelling. That's not to say what's presented in this animated picture works, which it does, but it lacks the originality and almost follows the same type of narrative story formula of its predecessor and creates that sense of predictability. Coinciding with this notion, the emotional impact moments that the feature presents in the movie can't quite hit as hard as it did with the first Inside Out. That's not to say the emotional punch for what the movie wants to convey within Riley's various emotions and the revelations that are made throughout the entire film, but, much like what I said in the above paragraph, it's a lot of the familiar scenarios and ideas that are playing out and somewhat lessen the emotional impact than what was originally intended, especially because this movie is a sequel and has already been done before. It's sort of like a catch-22 scenario that film can't really escape and is considered to be part of the narrative formula and as such is integrated into the animated feature with very little movement or change that could occur in such a plotting of a story. Again, it's a huge deal for me as I sort of knew that this was going to be the case, but it can be seen as a little bit redundant in recycling such emotional impacts that aren't as totally impactful as it was in the 2015 picture. The cast in Inside Out 2 is spot on with the entire acting talent selected to voice these particular animated characters bring a certain type of quality to the proceedings, matching the energy, colorful, and widely animated personas that they are portraying. Some characters could have benefited from more screen time or more to do, but, for the most part, the characters are still vibrant and a joy to watch whenever they appear on screen, especially with the voice talents to bring their voices to life. Leading that charge is actress Amy Poehler, who returns once again to play Riley's leading core emotion Joy. A yellow colored expresses Riley's happiness and overall joy, who acts the main leader of Riley's main control room. Known for her roles in Sisters, Saturday Night Live, and Parks and Recreations, Poehler has been gifted with perky and upbeat-sounding voice, which is a perfect fit for the physical embodiment of the core emotion of joy. Considered to be the main character in this first film, the character of Joy continues to be just that in this sequel, with Poehler ready and willing to easily slide back in the role and just as compelling as it was back in 2015. The character arc for Joy in Inside Out 2 does have a few bumps in its undertaking, especially hitting some well too familiar beats, yet is still compelling and emotional driven. Behind Joy, the movie does feature the return of the character of Sadness, a blue-colored emotion who displays Riley's upsetting and depressive experiences, and who is played by actress Phyllis Smith, Bad Teacher and The Office. While not as totally impactful as she was in the first movie, Sadness still plays her role in the grand scheme of Inside Out 2's story, with Smith still showcasing the melancholy, yet sometimes comedic lines, nature of her emotion state of being. Likewise, the same can be said with the core emotion of anger, a red-colored emotion who represents the aggressive nature of Riley's characterizations, and who is once again voiced by comedian, actor Lewis Black, accepted and Man of the Year. Like Sadness, anger doesn't play much of a larger part in the main narrative as he did in the first film, but the character still has plenty of sight gags throughout the movie, especially with his hot-tempered nature, and Black's voice work still continues to be hilarious. The remaining two core emotions of Riley, who are fear, a purple-colored emotion responsible for protecting Riley from threats and panic, and disgust, a green-colored emotion who deals with visceral aversions, gut reactions like responding to body language, are played by different voice talents. Replacing actor Bill Hader and actress Mindy Kaling from the first movie is actor Tony Hale, Arrested Development and Toy Story 4, and Liza Lapira, 21 and Crazy, Stupid, Love. Both Hale and Lapira do great jobs in providing similar voices that of which Hader and Kaling did in the first Inside Out, and Fear and Disgust and do certainly complement the returning voice players cohesively. Switching over to the new emotions for Riley, The one who makes the most lasting impression and has the most pivotal screen time in the movie is anxiety, an orange-colored emotion who gets worried and catastrophizes every situation, with stated intention of averting such bad outcomes for Riley, and who is played by actress Hawke. Stranger Things and Asteroid City. The constant fearfulness of what if gives anxiety a sort of constant chatter throughout the feature, and Hawke plays up those moments perfectly. In truth, anxiety acts almost like an antagonist in the movie, but not in a malicious or vindictiveness way, but rather a new emotion that seems to undercut Joy's leadership and tries to muscle her way into controlling Riley fully. It is, more or less, a difference of opinions, with Hawke's anxiety being a great character foil to Polar's joy, with the pair having some of the best lines, both humorous and tender ones, in the film. After anxiety, the new emotion of ennui, an indigo-colored emotion who expresses Riley's boredom, sarcasm, and feigned disinterest, and who is played by actress Adele Exarchopoulos. Blue is the warmest color and orphan. Exarchopoulos's bored French-sounding accent gives ennui a humorous character build, especially how she is drawn and presented, and does produce a lot of laughs whenever she is on screen. Definitely probably one of my favorite of Riley's new emotions. Behind her, the emotion of embarrassment, a pink-colored emotion who responds to Riley's embarrassment situations, plays a humorous physical role in the movie, and who is voiced by actor Paul Walter Hauser, Richard Jewell and Cruella. While not much of a talker, the character of embarrassment provides plenty of goofy antics in and out of the movie's runtime and creates some hilarious moments throughout. Perhaps the only new emotion I felt could have been expanded upon or had a bit more dialogue moments was envy, a cyan-colored emotion who motivates Riley to pursue what others have, and who is voiced by Ayo Edebiri, Bottoms and the Bear. While Edebiri brings the amount of animated-sounding voice to the role, which is great, the character of Envy sort of gets pushed aside and is probably the weakest, least interesting of Riley's new emotions. Rounding out the rest of Riley's inner subconscious mind characters are Bluefy, an interactive character from Riley's favorite children TV show, similar in the manner of Blue's Clues and Dora and the Explorer, and who is voiced by Ron Funches, Trolls and Six Underground. Pouchy, Bluefy's talking pouch who is similar to Backpack from Dora the Explorer and who is voiced by James Austin Johnson. Saturday Night Live praise Petey, Lance/Blade, a heroic video game character who Riley had a crush on when she was younger and who is voiced by Lords of the Fallen and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Deep Dark Secret, Riley's deepest secrets manifested into a towering being and who is voiced by Steve Purcell, Brave and Coco. As to be expected, these characters are delegated to minor supporting roles, but their animated vocals and humorous bits do making them stand out and are memorable whenever they appear. Of the human characters in the movie, the character of Riley, now a 13-year-old teenager girl who suddenly experiences a range of new emotions and feelings during a hockey comp retreat, and who is voiced by actress Kensington Ullman, Drama Club and That Girl Lele, replacing Caitlin Diaz from the first film. In truth, Tallman does quite a good job in providing the voice for Riley, hitting all the right tones and angst that one would expect to find within a young teenager girl and the emotional weight that she carries. The character arc for Riley, while not as dramatic as it was in the original Inside Out, still holds plenty of weight and understanding, as new puberty emotions emerge and begin to disrupt her core beliefs. Riley's journey in the movie is quite poignant about growing up and about friendship, which I did highlight above and is fundamental to all to learn from a broken bar. Regardless of age. As an additional side note to Riley, the character's parents, Mom and Dad Riley, make a return in this sequel, with actress Diane Lane, The Outsiders and Secretariat, and actor Kyle MacLachlan, Dune and Twin Peaks, reprising their voices once again. However, unlike the first Inside Out, the characters of Riley's mom and dad sort of only bookend the feature and don't have much participation in the main plot of the story this time around. Still, Lane and MacLachlan are still quite effective in their voice performances in the movie. In more supportive roles are Riley's two best friends, Grace and Bree, who are voiced by Grace Liu, Frightcrin Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Suminir Iden Green, Dream Productions, respectfully. While mostly just side characters, both Grace and Bree do play an instrumental part in Riley's journey as her close best friends, but are pushed aside when the new emotions take control of the young girl and start to look for newer ones. Could both of these characters be expanded upon more? Yes, I most definitely think so, but what's presented works and serviceable, with both Lou and Neirin Green giving some quality performance in their characters. Rounding out the rest human characters cast, includes actress Lillimer, Bella and the Bulldogs and Spiders, as a popular high school hockey skater Valentina Valoritz and actress Yvette Nicole Brown, Community and Pound Puppies, as high school hockey coach and head of the summer hockey comp that Riley and her friends are attending Coach Roberts. While both Lillimer and Brown do great jobs in giving these two characters life and personalities throughout the movie, I do feel that both Val and Coach Roberts could have been slightly expanded upon more in a few key areas. Not a whole lot, of course, but a bit more fleshed out to give a better understanding to them, as characters, and in their interactions with Riley.